quiet town, a 4-year-old boy, and another boy just 13 who took him to a field and never let him come back. But the most terrifying thing wasn't what he did. It was how, for years, he learned to smile while hiding the monster inside him. This is the story of Eric Smith, a case that will forever change the way you look at a child. Eric Smith, the boy who hid the monster. The summer that turned red Savona, New York, a small town, a place where doors were left unlocked, where children played until the sun went down, and where no one, absolutely no one, thought danger could live among them. It was August 1993, a hot, dense summer, heavy with a silence that would soon be broken. August 2nd began like any other day. At 11:00 in the morning, Derek Roby, a boy just 4 years old, decided to walk alone to the park, only 2 blocks from his home. His mother, Doreen, watched him leave, smiling, with a small red backpack slung over his shoulder. She thought nothing would happen. It was a short walk in a safe town. But within minutes, that walk would turn into a story that would forever change life in Savona. Derek never made it to the park. When the counselors noticed his absence, the first hours were filled with phone calls, improvised searches, and the desperate cries of a mother who was beginning to understand that something was very wrong. Less than 200 meters from his destination, in an empty lot covered with tall grass and shrubs, police found his small body, beaten, strangled, and with signs of a violence no one expected to see in a crime against a child. In a town where everyone knew each other, finding the culprit seemed only a matter of time. What no one suspected was that the killer wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a grown man hiding in the shadows. He was someone who played on the same streets, who smiled at the same people, who went to the same school as everyone's children. Eric Smith, 13 years old, a shy, withdrawn boy. The kind adults described as different, but harmless. He was always alone. He always seemed to carry more than just his school bag, a sadness no one quite understood. In the days after the crime, Eric didn't go unnoticed. In fact, he was everywhere. He volunteered to help search for clues. He spoke with neighbors, walked among the volunteers. He seemed interested, too interested. A neighbor would later recall that Eric began sharing strange details about Derek's death, details police had never made public. At first, no one wanted to believe it. How could a child kill another child? But the pieces were starting to fit. Eric had a history of angry outbursts at school, trouble controlling his impulses, and a past of bullying that had deeply scarred him. Police decided to speak with him, and this is when the truth began to surface. At first, Eric tried to pretend he knew little, but little by little, he began giving information no other witness could have. He described the exact spot where Derek had fallen, the position of his body, and the stone he had used to hit him. The confession that followed left everyone frozen. Eric recounted with chilling calm how he had called Derek to follow him down a path. He promised to show him something, and halfway down the trail he attacked him, first with his hands, then with a rock. The most disturbing thing was that Eric didn't cry. He didn't seem nervous. He seemed relieved. The psychologists who evaluated him were baffled. This wasn't the typical case of an adult serial killer. It was a child with a dangerous mix of repressed anger, resentment from years of ridicule, and an impulse he didn't even seem to understand. In 1994, Eric Smith was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 9 years to life in prison. But for the people of Savona, the sentence brought no peace, because the monster wasn't as far away as they thought. He had lived among them. In the next part, we will discover how Eric tried to convince the world that he had changed, the secrets he hid for years, and what happened the day he regained his freedom. To the public, Eric Smith was the symbol of inexplicable evil, a child who had murdered another child without a clear motive, and told the story with a chilling calm. In 1994, he was sentenced to 9 years to life in a youth facility. The question many asked was, could a child like this be rehabilitated, or would he simply grow up and perfect the monster inside him? In prison, Eric transformed. From that skinny boy with glasses and messy red hair emerged a young man with an intense gaze, taller, with a controlled tone of voice and a carefully practiced smile. The guards said he was polite and calm. He participated in educational programs, helped in the library, attended therapy. But there was also something strange. Eric never spoke about what he had done, unless absolutely necessary. Psychologists described him as having high emotional intelligence, but with a cold capacity to manipulate people's perception of him. In private sessions, he admitted he still struggled with violent impulses. In public, he claimed he was completely rehabilitated. In 2002, after serving the minimum sentence, Eric applied for parole for the first time. In the hearing, he spoke in a calm voice. He said he regretted what had happened, that he was no longer the impulsive child he had been at 13, but the images of Derek Roby, that 4-year-old boy with the red backpack, were still alive in his mother's mind. She attended every hearing and spoke while looking Eric in the eyes. "My son had his whole life ahead of him, and you took it away. You will never be able to give that back to me." The parole board was firm, request denied, but Eric didn't give up. He returned in 2004, 2006, 2008, 2009, 2011, 2013, 2015, 2017, and 2019. 10 requests in total, all denied. Each time, the same feeling. Was he a truly remorseful man, or someone who had learned to say exactly what people wanted to hear? In each appearance, Eric became more articulate, calmer. He never got upset at tough questions. He never raised his voice. And each time, his smile seemed more convincing. I think about Derek every day. I think about what I did, and what his life could have been. What I did was monstrous, but I'm not that child anymore. Outside those walls, Savona's community wasn't convinced. Many feared that if Eric were released, he would kill again. Not because he was a serial killer, but because they knew that inside him there was something that never truly goes out. In 2021, everything changed. After 27 years behind bars, the parole board decided to approve his release. On February 16, 2022, Eric Smith, now 42 years old, walked out of prison a free man. The press was ready. The cameras followed him as he stepped into a life he claimed to have rebuilt in his mind for decades. But there was no grand speech, no tears, just a man who quickly disappeared from public view. To this day, Eric lives under parole, with his exact whereabouts unknown to most. He cannot go near Savona. He cannot contact the Roby family. But there is something unsettling. In his most recent interviews, when asked if he trusts himself not to hurt someone again, Eric answers with a short phrase, "I think so. I think so." For some, that's not enough. Savona never forgot that summer. Never forgot the small body lying in the grass, and never forgot that sometimes the monster smiles like a child, a quiet town, a 4-year-old boy, and another boy, just 13, who took him to a field and never let him come back. But the most terrifying thing wasn't what he did. It was how, for years, he learned to smile while hiding the monster inside him. This is the story of Eric Smith, a case that will forever change the way you look at a child.